A very big hello to my wonderful PU2 champions. I hope all my dear children are doing absolutely great. Well, today we are going to solve the very important questions from the chapter Organisms and Population. Now, this chapter carries 6 marks. But I'll say sometimes you feel it's very easy to score these 6 marks because most of them are direct question. But sometimes it becomes difficult to answer questions from the last 3 chapters. Why? Because you find the most, tricky NCERT sentence-based question coming off from this chapter. So I'll request you, after watching this video, please go ahead and read your NCERT as well. From any part of your NCERT, any question can pop up as well. Cool? So yes, there is one 1-marker question and one 5-marker question that you can expect from this chapter according to the blueprint of 2025-26. Starting off with the 1-marker questions initially. This is from MQP1, and the question says the organisms that reproduce only once in their lifetime, what do you call them? You call them simul-pares organisms. What do you call them? Simul-pares organisms. Now over here you have options of the organisms that produce only once in their entire lifetime. Oysters, pelagic fish, salmon fish, hippocampus. The answer is salmon. The answer is salmon. In your NCERT, it is given as specific salmon, and one more example is given for the organisms that reproduce only once, and that is bamboo. You might have seen bamboo trees, right? So my dear children, those also reproduce only once in their entire lifetime. Now again, this is a sentence-based question which is there, right there in your NCERT. There are organisms which reproduces multiple times in their lifetime. For example, birds, for example, mammals. Okay? So that is there, but they only once. Now going ahead with the next question. In a pond, okay, this is from MQP2. In a pond, if there were 20 lotus plants last year, so 20 lotus plants were there last year, and through reproduction 16 are added. What is a new population? 16. 16 more are added now. Not new population, but it is a, the number of organisms that have got added up. Now calculate the birth rate. How do you calculate the birth rate? You put number of the new additions divided by what was the existing population. Okay, so what do you get? Your answer would be 0.8. If at all you do the division, your answer comes to be 0.8. Now you see 0.8 over here, you see 0.8 over here as well. Which one is the correct answer? Always remember, when you are asked about the birth rate, you have to mention the year. You have to mention year. So over here they are telling it happened last year, and after 1 year this whole thing is happening. So obviously per year will definitely will be there. Apart from that, you also have to mention that it is about per lotus. So 0.8 offspring per the organism which is producing it per year. So here there is no mention about the organism. It is just written 0.8 offspring per year. No baba. 0.8 offspring per lotus per year, that would be more correct. So your answer for this question would be A. And here is the, the formula up there. So number of new individuals added divided by initial population into time. Okay, so time is just 1 year, that's all. Otherwise, you do not need to mention time over here. Just calculate whatever is given, and then suppose sometimes they might give 1 week. So just whenever you answer the question, write per week or per day, whatever is there in your question, answer accordingly. Okay? Fine. Now, question number 3, this is from MQP3. The correct order of various levels of biological organizations in an ecosystem is. What is the correct level of biological organization? Organisms, they come together to form what? Population. Population, they come together to form community. Community, they come together to form ecosystem. And ecosystem, they come together to form what? Biomes. So this is going to be your answer. The first one itself is going to be answer. Here organism forms the population. Population directly cannot form the biome. Population has to form a community. Okay, and then it has to form an ecosystem. And that's how you get the biome. Cool? Yes. Next question. Jiva was growing a bacterial colony in a culture flask under ideal laboratory conditions where the resources sooner or later became limiting. Okay, the resources sooner or later became limiting. Which of the following equations will represent the correct growth in this case? You need to understand this question very well, because I see a lot of confusions coming around these type of questions. So he was growing what? Bacterial colony. Where was he growing? In the culture flask, under ideal laboratory conditions. Okay, under ideal laboratory condition. But here one more thing is being mentioned, that is the resources is sooner or later going to be limiting factor, is going to become a limiting factor. That means there is no ideal resources being here. They are saying ideal laboratory conditions, everything is there, that means temperature, everything is fine, but the resource which is there, for example the culture which is there, my dear children, it might get limited later on. You are not providing it too much. So you need to understand this question seriously. Sometimes they will tell you that an organism is growing in an ideal condition with optimum temperature, with everything nice. It's okay. In that particular case, all the organisms, my dear children, suppose over here you have time, over here you have growth, it is going to grow like this. It is known as exponential growth. It is known as exponential growth. If at all there is no limiting factor. In nature, do you think organisms shows exponential growth? Some. For example, if there is particularly ideal conditions out there, yes. But afterwards, my dear children, if we think for a longer run, obviously all the resources are going to be limited. So this is not considered to be something that usually happens. But if, I'm telling you, but if in your question it is written as ideal conditions with optimum temperature, optimum this and that, there is no mention about resources getting ended, please understand it will show exponential graph. According to the conditions given, this is hypothetical situation. But yes, in that condition it will show exponential graph. You also call this J-shaped graph. Why? Because it looks like the J. Initial growth is slow, but later on it grows on. Now, usually in nature we see all the resources which are there, they are in limited quantity. That is why we fight for resources. That is why not all organisms flourish. Only the one which is fittest is able to survive. Why? Because environment, my dear children, it has something which is known as the carrying capacity. Which is known as carrying capacity, and carrying capacity is denoted by the letter K. It means that there is some limitation in the environment, which is why generally organisms show an S-shaped curve. S-shaped curve, and this type of growth is known as logistic growth. It is known as what? Logistic growth. So logistic has an S, and S-shaped curve also has an S, so you can remember like that. So over here when I am saying the resources sooner or later are going to become limited, that means initially it will grow, but when it understands that no more resources are going to be there, it reaches to what asymptote. I will say it reaches to a level where it is not going to grow, it is going to be just stable. Now this and this is denoted by different formulas or equations are there. When you talk about exponential growth, it is denoted by dn by dt, that is change in the population size, is equals to Rn. Rn is the initial population size that we have, and R is basically intrinsic rate of natural increase. You call it intrinsic rate of natural increase. It is nothing but birth minus death. It is nothing but birth minus death. This is the equation for exponential growth. Please remember it. Now I am going to make some changes over here. In logistic growth, I have to consider carrying capacity as well. So over here the equation, this equation remains the same. This equation remains the same. I just have to do an addition, and that is K minus N divided by K. K minus N divided by K. This is going to be the new equation that I have for logistic growth. So over here, since resources are sooner going to be limited, it shows an S-shaped curve, that is logistic growth, and logistic growth is shown by this particular formula that you see over here. See, here they have mentioned plus. It's not plus, it is minus. K minus N divided by K. Okay, the carrying capacity minus the initial population size that we have divided by the carrying capacity again. Cool? Yes. Now, monarch butterfly is avoided by the predators because, so monarch butterfly is a very pretty butterfly out there, but they are avoided by anyone who comes to eat them. Why? They like, no, I don't want to eat monarch butterfly, I'll go eat something else. Why do you think so? Because it is cryptically colored, or they show camouflaging. It is highly distasteful. It produces a poisonous cardiac glycoside. It has a stinging cell on its body. What is the reason? First reason that comes to our mind, it is highly distasteful. Okay, it tastes so bad that no one would ever want to eat it again. That is the reason. It is highly distasteful. But it is also like that. I'll tell you something which is not given in NCERT. So basically, when it is in its caterpillar stage, that's when it will go and feed on a plant that is known as milkweed. Okay, milkweed plant. And this milkweed plant have some poisonous things such as cardiac glycosides. Now, it stores it in its body, okay, so that it can use it as a defense mechanism. But in your NCERT, they have not mentioned as it has cardiac glycosides for monarch butterfly. This particular term is used for a plant which is known as Calotropis. It says that there is a plant that is Calotropis, and Calotropis, which is a plant, is not being eaten by any organisms. Why? Because they produce cardiac glycosides. So yes, they produce cardiac glycosides, but in the case of monarch butterfly also, you have cardiac glycosides. Just have that in your understanding. It's not there in your NCERT. The reason why it is being avoided by predators is it is because it is highly distasteful. Okay? Yes. Next. Now, what does the shape of the given age pyramid reflect about the growth status of the population? So over here, A, which is there, this part is the, what do you call, the pre-reproductive part. Okay, this would be the reproductive and this would be post-reproductive. If at all, I see that basically in the lower area, okay, in the lower area, the organisms which are going to reproduce later, they are in more amount. Pre-reproductive age group organisms are in more amount. That means in future, they will reproduce, they will increase the population, right? So can I say that basically since it is in more amount, this is going to be an expanding population? Yes, it is going to be an expanding population. What about this? Here, if at all you see pre-reproductive organisms and reproductive organisms, the people who are reproducing, the people who are going to reproduce are in the same level. So I say they are going to produce a stable population. Now, over here if you see, the pre-reproductive organisms, they are in very less amount. They are in very less amount, and then comes reproductive and then comes post-reproductive. If they are less in amount, in future who is going to reproduce and who is going to increase the population size? Arey Baba, there is no one. So can I say it's a declining population? Yes, it is a declining population. So your answer should be expanding, stable and then declining. And C is the only option that matches with all the criteria that we just discussed. Okay? C is your answer for this particular question. Cool? Yes. Now the next question. On the rocky sea coast of Scotland, the larger and the competitively superior barnacle Balanus dominates the intertidal area and excludes the smaller barnacle Thalamus from that zone. Which kind of interaction is being depicted by this example? On a rocky sea coast of Scotland, the larger and competitively superior barnacle, that is Balanus, dominates the intertidal region. So initially you had Balanus over here. Sorry, Balanus is over here already, and then my dear children, before you had one more guy, and that was Thalamus. You do not pronounce the term, it is silenced. Okay, so basically Thalamus was there, Balanus was also here, but when Balanus came into action, all the Thalamus was said to, hey, you go around, you go out, you cannot stay over here, this is my zone. So what is this? What exactly is this? Obviously, competition is this. It's clearly written, competitively superior barnacle Balanus dominates the intertidal area and excludes the smaller barnacle, that is Thalamus, from that particular zone. So obviously it has to be competition. But this particular process, you should also know what do you mean, what is the term that you use for this particular process. When suppose the Thalamus moves from here, moves out from here, what is going to happen? The Balanus is going to just spread over here in the intertidal zone. This is known as competitive release. It's known as competitive release. When the inferior organism moves out, the superior one comes and dominates the entire region. They take up the entire region. This is known as competitive release. It's because of competition that is going to happen. So this competition does not have an end. I have added it right over here. Yes, yes. Next question. Assertion. The epiphyte use the trees only for attachment and manufacture their own food by photosynthesis. So you might have seen a mango tree. On the mango tree, my dear children, on the mango tree, on some of its branch, an epiphyte might grow. So mango tree is there, but an epiphyte is growing somewhere over here. What do you think? They are depending on the food from mango tree? Do you think so? No, Baba. They are there just for attachment and also for receiving enough amount of sunlight. If they are in lower area, they would not get sunlight. That is why they are come up. They can prepare their own food. Okay, they can prepare their own food. They are not harming the mango tree in any ways. They are just getting the benefit. So that is a plus relationship over here. They are getting the benefit of getting enough sunlight, whereas the mango tree is neither harmed nor nor profited out there. So I'll say it's a +0 relationship, which means it is commensalism. It is commensalism when one organism gets the benefit, another organism is neither getting half nor getting benefited. So epiphyte use the trees only for attachment and manufacture their own food by photosynthesis. Correct statement. Reason. Commensalism results in negative effects. Negative, here only your whole statement becomes wrong. Can it show a negative effect, Baba? It's what? A positive effect. It cannot be a negative effect. In one organism positive, in another organism neither negative nor positive out there. So this statement would be anyway wrong. I do not even have to read the entire statement. So assertion is true, reason is going to be false. Assertion is true and the reason is false. Your answer is going to be C. Cool? Yes. Now, question number 9. The abundant tortoise in Galapagos Islands became extinct after goats were introduced on the island. Mention the type of interaction. Why do you think the abundant tortoise were extincted when goats were introduced? So, Baba, both of them were eating the grasses out there. Okay, so tortoise was initially there, the goat came into the picture, but what happened is that the goat, they can easily reproduce well, they can move around really well, they can eat really well, so they did that. And when they did that, the tortoise did not get enough food. So there was a competition out there, okay, and because of this competition, one guy had to be knocked out. One guy actually got extinct. This is a real type scenario. One guy got extinct. So what do you say? Competition is happening, and here competitive exclusion is happening. Okay, a term is there, competitive exclusion. When altogether one organism is being extincted, you call this process as competitive exclusion. Remember, super important. Okay. Yes. Now, sorry, did I scare you? I hope not. Okay, so now we are going to go ahead with the 5-marker questions that have usually come from this chapter. I hope all the MCQs are super clear to you. Yes. Okay, fine. So the first question that I have for you is, write an equation to calculate the population density at time t. Now this is an MQP1 question. How do you explain the equation of population density? It is nothing but NT, the new population size after time t, is equals to N naught, the initial population size, plus the factors which are going to increase the population. What are the factors which increases the population? Birth of anyone and also immigration. Suppose there is a population over here, from there some organisms came over here. This process is known as immigration. So immigration and birth is going to increase the population, so I put it in one particular box, minus death plus emigration, things which are going to decrease the population. That is why you use the term minus. Okay, but here death is there and emigration means, suppose there were organisms over here, they didn't like you, they moved outside the population, they are now elsewhere. Now the population density over here obviously decreased, right? So that is why death plus emigration will be there. Both of them would be minus from all this thing that is there. Okay, got it? So please mention NT stands for this, N naught stands for this, and the list should go on. Now, they have also mentioned one more thing. Population density fluctuates due to change in 4 basic processes. Mention and define these 4 basic processes. So one is why population density fluctuates. If any of these things, my dear children, change, obviously population density is going to fluctuate. First one is natality, which you call as birth rate. The number of individuals added to the population by the reproduction per unit time. The number of individuals added to the population by reproduction per unit time is known as what? Birth rate. What is mortality? Mortality is death rate. The number of individuals lost from the population by death per unit time. Again, you have to put per unit time because it's talking about rate, birth rate, death rate. So time has to be mentioned. Now immigration, the number of individuals entering a population from somewhere. Emigration, the number of organisms leaving a population to another area. Okay, now if at all you're asked, what are the two major factors which brings out a lot of changes in population density? The two major things are natality and mortality. Natality and mortality is going to be the one. Okay, what about this immigration and emigration? That is going to have a different scenario altogether. Yes, just, yeah, anything? Just a second. Yes, I'm so sorry. So natality and mortality is something that is going to play a major role over here, and then comes immigration and emigration. I hope that's clear, right? Now going ahead with the next question, what is mutualism? Explain any 4 examples of mutualism. Mutualism basically is the interaction between two species where both of them are going to be benefited. For example, me teaching you, okay? So when I teach you, I am immensely happy to see how I am helping you guys in studying. Now you, my dear children, you get the benefit of understanding the concept is what I believe, okay? I hope you are understanding the concept, right? So this is a mutualistic relationship. Both of us are basically getting some benefit out of it. So examples of mutualism is lichen, mycorrhiza, rhizobium bacteria and leguminous plant, and also fig tree and wasp. Listen to me carefully. Lichen is a combination of algae and fungi. Mycorrhiza is a combination of plant root and again fungi. This is the easiest way you can remember. Algae can photosynthesize its own food. I mean, at least they can do chemosynthesis or photosynthesis, either way. So algae is there, can prepare its own food. Plant is there, can prepare its own food and can give some food to the fungi, right? So this is one interaction that is happening. Now what does the fungi do? Fungi in the case of lichen is going to provide protection, and also fungi, my dear children, they have root-like structure which you call as rhizoids, which can quickly seep into the soil and take in very important nutrients. They can take in very, very important nutrients out there. So algae provides food, whereas fungi, on the other hand, my dear children, provides protection and also absorbs nutrients in this particular case. Similarly, in mycorrhiza also, they are going to help in absorption of water minerals, especially there is a nutrient being mentioned, and that is phosphorus. And that is what? Phosphorus. So lichen is a combination of this, always remember, and mycorrhiza is a combination of plant roots as well as fungi. Both of them are helping each other. Now, rhizobium bacteria and leguminous plant. So rhizobium bacteria and leguminous plant have a different relation altogether. You know, plants need nitrogen. Nitrogen is a very important component which helps in the formation of chlorophyll. And without chlorophyll, do you think they can, absorb sunlight? No, baba. Okay, so they need nitrogen, but nitrogen in the nature is found in this format. It has triple bond, and plants, if they take this nitrogen, they cannot break down this triple bond out there, which is why we need someone to break it, to change it to some other format which the plants can easily take up, and that is the role of rhizobium. We say it fixes atmospheric nitrogen. Fixes atmospheric nitrogen as in basically breaks it down, converts into something else which is useful for plants. Okay. And on the other hand, what does the plant do? Plant always, as I told you, provide shelter, provide food, baba, provide nutrients, because they are responsible for photosynthesis. They will do photosynthesis, provide the food. Every time whenever there is an algae, the plant out there in a mutualistic relationship, that means they are going to prepare the food and give. That's all. Okay? Fine. Now we have fig tree and wasp. In fig tree, my dear children, the fig fruit which is there, in that fruit, it provides an area where the wasp can come and lay its egg and get some nutrition, my dear children. Whereas wasp gets the benefit of basically laying the egg, getting the shelter and everything out there. Rather than if we talk about the fig tree, it basically is getting help by the process of pollination. When the wasp moves around from one plant to another plant, pollination is happening out there. So that is the thing. So wasp helps in pollination of the fig trees or the fig flowers, and the fig provides food and a place for the egg laying to the wasp. So this is a thing that you need to remember. Cool? Yes. Now, name the type of interaction seen in each of the following examples. Clownfish living among the tentacles of the sea anemone. So sea anemone is there, you know, they have big tentacles. In that Nemo, Finding Nemo wala small fish, no, it comes and stays. Why do you think it is staying out there? The clownfish wants protection, and it needs the protection with the help of the tentacles of the sea anemone. So it's a plus thing that is happening over here. What about sea anemone? Sea anemone is neither getting harmed nor getting benefited. So I say it's a +0 relationship. One organism is getting benefited, other organism is neither getting harmed nor getting benefited. So I'll say it is commensalism. What about koel and cuckoo? It's not cuckoo actually, it should be koel and crow. Koel and crow, my dear children. So you know, crow lays its egg. Crow lays its egg, and then cuckoo also comes and lays its egg in the same nest of the crow. That is really bad, right? And basically, what's the loss for crow over here? Crow is going to provide that nourishment, that warmth to all the eggs, whether they are their its own or someone else's, right? So some amount of energy is being lost from the crow side, right? That is why we say that here parasitism is happening. Parasitism means one organism is getting the benefit, that is the koel, and the crow is getting harmed. So it is a plus minus, sorry. It is a plus minus relationship. One organism getting harmed and other organism getting the benefit. Harmed as in basically not exactly harmed, but there is a negative impact happening out there because the crow's energy is lost for no use. You get it? It should have been their own egg, then it would have been still considered. And this type of parasitism has a name. You call this as brood parasitism. Okay, you call this as brood parasitism. Now you have barnacles growing on the back of the whale. So on the whale you might have seen some things stuck on the surface. What is this? This is barnacle. So wherever the whale moves, the barnacle is getting easy transport without any ticket money. So basically over here again the organism is getting benefit. The other organism is neither getting benefited nor harmed. So I'll say it is an example of commensalism. So it's for just transportation purpose that the barnacle is staying on the surface of the whale. Now marine fish and copepod. So marine fish, the fish which is there in the salty water, and copepod. Copepod, my dear children, is a parasite which stays on the surface of the marine fish and suck their things out. So it's a parasite. So I'll say it is parasitism. So what kind of relationship? Over here plus and over here minus. Plus minus relationship is seen in the case of parasitism. Just like how we have lice on human beings. So this is a parasite and this is what you call as host. In case of parasitism, you have a term for it, parasite and the host. Now, sexual deceit in Mediterranean orchid ophrys. So, ophrys is an orchid, okay, a flower. And this flower, my dear children, looks like the female honeybee. So, the male honeybee thinks, oh my God, that's my darling out there. So, it goes and tries to copulate on it. Okay, tries to do the sexual intercourse out there. But you should understand this is not the actual female. It's pseudo copulation, false copulation that is happening out there. But you know what? Over here, anyway, the organism is copulated, and over here, the organism will also get some pollen grain from this particular plant, that is ophrys. It can eat some, but anyhow, it will also be transporting some unknowingly. So when it is transporting, or the plant is getting benefited, and the ophrys is getting benefited, and the bee, my dear children, it's getting benefit because it gets some amount of the pollen grains to eat, and apart from that, it also does pseudo copulation. Well, this is an example of sexual deceit. Sexual deceit. It's like cheating out there. Okay, got it? So over here, the example would be mutualism. Both of them are getting benefit. If at all you are asked about the clear term, it will be sexual deceit. But here you are asked about the type of interaction. So that is mutualism. Okay. Now, explain the fascinating forms of interaction in brood parasitism and sexual deceit. So I already told you in brood parasitism what is happening. Cuckoos are well-known brood parasites. Cuckoos' eggs often mimic the appearance of the host egg. Now this is an important question. Usually it comes, the host egg has evolved in a way such that it looks like cuckoo's egg. Arey no baba, cuckoo comes and lays its egg over here. So it has to make sure. The parasite has to make sure that its egg is resembling the host egg. So always remember, it's cuckoo's egg which has underwent evolution out there to resemble like the host egg, which is the crow's egg. Impact on the host bird invests resources in raising the parasite's young, often at the expense of its own offspring. Parasite chicks typically outcompete the host chicks for food and also care. But that does not have enough brain to think that this is not mine, this is mine. You get it? That is the thing. Now, sexual deceit. Definition: the sexual strategy where organisms use deceptive tactics to exploit the behavior of another species or individual for their own benefit. Now, Mediterranean orchid mimics the appearance and scent of the female insect to attract the male pollinators. The males attempt to mate with the flower, inadvertently transferring what? Pollen in this particular process. Significance: sexual deceit benefits the deceiver by facilitating pollination, or predation while exploiting the natural behaviors of the other species. So this is there, but still it is considered to be an example of mutualism itself, because somehow both of them are getting some benefits. Okay? Yes. Now next question. Mention the following population interaction. What population interaction exists among the following? A Bington tortoise and goats, I told you the competition happens, and it is example of competitive exclusion also. One organism get extinct also. Now tiger and deer, tiger goes and eats the deer, so can I just say it's prey-predator relationship? This is the prey and this is the predator. Say, this is the prey and this is the predator. So this is predation. The interaction is what? Predation. Over here, one is going to get the benefit, other is going to get harmed. Yes. Now, yes. Sea anemone. What about competition, my dear children? Competition is a negative relationship. Oh, I hope you guys know. Both of them somehow are getting harmed. So I'll say negative relationship. Now sea anemone and the clownfish. We studied clownfish is just there for protection. So it's commensalism. And sea anemone is neither getting harmed. Wasp laying eggs in the fig fruit. Mutualism. Both of them are helping. One is getting shelter, one is getting pollination done. Cuscuta growing on the eggplant. Now plant is there, on that cuscuta is growing. Cuscuta is another plant that does not have chlorophyll. It cannot undergo photosynthesis on its own. So basically it has to depend on another plant, a green plant. So it is parasitism. This is the parasite and that is the prey. This is the parasite and that is the, not prey, my God, just a second. I am in different world, I'm so sorry, host. Host. Okay, have you seen people zoning out even while talking? Well, the live example is me. So this is a host and this is your parasite. This is a living host. It has all the chlorophyll pigments. It has the food. So cuscuta, my dear children, it has a finger-like projection which goes inside the plant, the actual plant, and takes in all whatever is important from the plant. Got it? Yes. Now, what is commensalism? Explained with two examples. The interaction where one species get the benefit and the other one is neither getting harmed or benefited is known as commensalism. Example, orchid growing on as an epiphyte on the mango branch, clownfish living among the tentacles of the sea anemone, barnacles on the back of the whales, cattle egret and the grazing cattle. You know cattle, cow, when it's moved, you might have seen birds, few birds moving around them. Why? So cattle egret is that bird, and basically why does it move? Because whenever cow moves, it will be flushing through the grass, and whatever small insects will be there, they will be coming up. So to eat these insects, you have cattle egret. So one guy is getting the benefit, other guy is neither getting harmed nor getting benefited. Now state Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. What does Gauss's competitive exclusion principle say? It says that if at all, two closely related species competing for the same resources are staying together, they cannot coexist indefinitely. Two closely related species, if at all feeding on the same resources, they cannot coexist indefinitely. Competitively inferior one will be moving out, will be eliminated, and that is what you call as competitive exclusion. You might have seen a Bington tortoise and goats example. Okay, so that is what you mean by Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. Now against this, if at all now organisms have evolved in such a way that there is no need for extinction, rather you have something else, and that something else is basically resource partitioning. You can still co-inhabit. Resource partitioning. You might have seen warbler birds. So warbler birds were eating on the same plant, but now they have partitioned the resources. You have from here, I will have from here, I will have from here, and also they have different foraging times. This is known as resource partitioning. This is against the competitive exclusion. Okay? So that is there. Now, what are ectoparasites and what are entoparasites, and list any three parasitic adaptations. Okay, so we were at this question. What do you mean by ectoparasite, my dear children? Parasite which lives on the surface of the host. For example, you might have seen lice on the head, right? Hair does not go deep inside our body, right? It just stay on the surface. Similarly, my dear children, you have ticks on the body of the dogs, right? And you have copepodids, we just discussed, they are there on the surface of the marine fishes. Now, talking about endoparasites, they are the one which gets inside the body of the living host. So once they're inside the body, obviously there will be some changes in them. There are some parasitic adaptations that they would require to stay inside the body of another organism. And here, that is the second part of the question. You have to tell about the 3 parasitic adaptation. The first one is loss of unnecessary sense organ. Just imagine the tapeworm has ears. Baba, if it has ears, do you think it will be able to move around very easily? No. It needs a surface like this, a plain surface, so that it can easily move around. Tapeworm is an endoparasite. Similarly, liver fluke is an endoparasite. Okay, both of them, they stay inside the body and they do not have any unnecessary sense organs. Now, so just imagine if at all the worm is like this, the worm has ears like this. It is so funny, right? Yeah. Now going ahead, presence of adhesive organs, suckers to cling to the host. Obviously, they do not have any hand and legs, anything to hold them somewhere, which is why they would be having some suckers. Okay, they will be having some adhesive organs or suckers on their body so that they can cling onto the host. So that is the very, very important thing. Apart from that, loss of digestive system. There would be loss of digestive system. Why? Because, my dear children, digestive system is used for breakdown of food. Do you think they need to break down their own food? No, Baba. The organism where they are staying, that organism is anyway going to break down food. They just need to absorb the important nutrients. So that is why there will be loss of digestive system. Now, high reproductive capacity, because, my dear children, once they come inside the body, after so much efforts they got inside the body, they have to make sure that over here I have to cause a big trouble. So they would, reproduce so much, and which is why they have high reproductive capacity as well. Next, complex life cycle involving 1 or 2 intermediate hosts. So usually they have a complex life cycle where they have multiple hosts. For example, whenever you talk about liver fluke, okay, liver fluke, please remember this is an example. This is also a question that came. So liver fluke has 2 intermediate hosts. Remember the name of the host. One is a fish and other one is a snail. Fish and a snail are intermediate hosts. Finally, they get into the the major host, the primary host out there. And similarly, if at all you talk about Plasmodium, which causes malaria. Plasmodium, which causes malaria. You might have seen that in Plasmodium, my dear children, they first get inside the mosquito, that is Anopheles mosquito, and then from there they get inside the human beings. So mosquito, which is over here, it is a host. It is definitely a host, and it also acts like a vector. Vector as in someone who will carry the organism. So vector and a host is the mosquito, and then it passes to the next host, that is human beings. Similarly, liver fluke, my dear children, they have 2 intermediate hosts. One is fish, other one is the snail. Now, they also need vectors, as I told you, which helps in parasitization of their primary host, the major host which is there. So here, in the case of Plasmodium, the major host is human beings. The vector and the other host that they have is the mosquito. Cool? Yes. So please remember this. This is super, super important, and the examples as well. Going ahead, predators are prudent and conduits in nature. Support your answer by giving reasons. So predators are prudent. Prudent as in super important. Okay, predators are super important because prudent does not mean super important. It basically means that they are, how do I explain this? Suppose I am the tiger and I have so many deers out there. I would not go around eating all the deers, because I definitely know if at all I eat all the deers, I would not have the next generation of them. Who will reproduce, give me more food later on? No one, right? So over here, they are more careful. They are like intelligent, I would say. Okay, so this feature is known as being prudent, because they are considered prudent because overexploitation of prey would lead to their own decline due to food scarcity. That is what you mean by prudent. Now, this is a statement that is given in NCERT. And what do you mean by conduits of conduits? Conduits means channel. Channel for what? For energy transfer. For example, I have whatever energy is stored in the deer that has to be transmitted to the tiger. From the tiger, it goes to the next organism out there. So it's like a channel of energy, of matter, everything that you see. So predators are considered as conduits in the energy flow of an ecosystem, transferring energy from the prey species to themselves and the next trophic levels. So prudent because they avoid overexploitation, conduits because they are going to help in the energy flow in an ecosystem. Going ahead. For example, lions hunting herbivores ensure that weak and diseased individuals are removed, which indirectly improves the prey population health. Yes, this is also one reason why they are considered to be prudent. So they do not do overexploitation because they know that they won't get the food later on. Apart from that, usually the organisms which are there, which are predators, my dear children, they focus on weaker prey. And unknowingly, when they're eating the weaker prey, basically, you're removing that trait from the group. You're removing the weak trait from the group. Now, whatever you have is basically something that is more strongly built. You get it? And that genes is going to be transferred. So that is also one very important thing. It improves the prey population health as well. Cool? Yes. Now, to lessen the impact of predation, prey species have evolved different defensive mechanisms in the case of plants and animals. Support your answer by giving one example each for a plant and an animal. Now, to lessen the impact of predation, to make sure that the predation is not happening too much, the prey species also thought that we should be defensive, we should be having something against these organisms. So in the case of animals, it is different. In the case of plants, it is different. In the case of animals, my dear children, you might have heard about frogs and insects. They show one very important thing, that is camouflaging. That means, for example, a frog will be green in color. It goes beside the area which is also green. So can you spot the what do you call frog easily? No, Baba. So it avoids being detected by the predator by the process of camouflaging. Now, some are poisonous and therefore avoided by the predator. Some organisms, they are poisonous as well, which is why no predator will come and eat them. There is an example given in a book for monarch butterfly, about which we discussed, right? So monarch butterfly, my dear children, just a second. Yeah, monarch butterfly right over here, it is highly distasteful. What is it? It is highly distasteful to its predator due to the presence of some special chemicals in its body. So I already told you, in caterpillar stage, they go and eat or feed on the milkweed plant, get those toxins, and which is why they would be very distasteful. So these are the few examples of defense mechanisms that you see in animals. One is camouflaging. The second one, as I said, they are poisonous. The third one is that they are distasteful as well. Now, in the case of plants, things are quite different. For plants, herbivores are the predators. Okay, the plant, as in what do you call, the rabbits, the goat, the cattle, everything. So nearly 25% of all insects are known to be phytophagous. Do you know that? Apart from all these big animals, even insects, 25% of all the insects, my dear children, are phytophagous. What do you mean by phytophagous? That means they feed on the plant sap. Phytophagous means they are going to feed on the plant sap and the other parts of the plant. The problem is severe for the plants because they cannot run away from their predators as the animals do. Obviously, we know that. Do you think plants can run away? No. Which is why we need some good defense mechanism. The first one is morphological defense mechanism. Morphology means the physical appearance, no? That is known as morphology. So morphological defense means, as in, for example, you have thorns. Thorn is an example of morphological defense. It is happening on the surface. It makes the organism look different, right? So thorns in the case of acacia as well as cactus. Now these two terms are important. Acacia and the cactus, in them you have thorns, and thorns provides what? Mechanical defense. Mechanical means of defense. Now you have many plants produce and store some chemicals which make the herbivore sick when they are eaten, inhibit feeding, digestion, disrupt reproduction, or even kill the predators. Example for this is, as I said, many plants, my dear children, they have some chemicals stored in them, and when any organism come and eat it, these chemicals are being transferred to them, and the organism can be killed, they can be diseased as well. One such big example is of Calotropis. One big example is of Calotropis. So over here, what are they doing? They produce a poisonous cardiac glycoside. And this cardiac glycoside, my dear children, can kill the herbivores. Okay, they can also kill the herbivores if taken in high amount. So this is another type of defense. Apart from it, as I told you, some chemicals are there not for killing but for causing trouble in the organism. For example, you might have heard about nicotine. You might have heard about quinine. So all of these are chemicals produced by the plants itself. So nicotine is found in tobacco plant. It's a drug. Okay, it's a drug which is used by us, by the people out there for their own purposes, and also actually talking, it's what a defense mechanism for the plants against all the herbivores out there. So morphological defense, chemical defense, I hope you remember the example, thorns, acacia and cactus, and Calotropis, cardiac glycosides. Okay? Yes. Now, write any 4 factors that influence population density. We already studied about it. Is natality, mortality, immigration and emigration. Draw a graph showing exponential growth. So this is population density, this is time. And exponential growth, as I told you, it is going to be slow and then it is going to increase. So dn by dt is equals to Rn is going to be your equation for this. Okay? So, and the opposite of it is logistic growth, where I told you it's dn by dt is equals to Rn k minus n divided by k. And there the graph would be something like this. This will be an S-shaped curve. So that is going to be dn by dt is equals to Rn k minus n divided by k. Okay? Yes. Yes. So I think that's all. Please make sure you read your NCERT. I'm telling you again, that is super, super, super important. Because in these chapters, you might see questions coming from in-depth portion of your NCERT as well. So that is a new thing that I'm seeing over here, the new trend that I'm seeing over here. So just have a quick read of your NCERT. That is also going to help you out. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the best. Lots of love. If you have any doubts, okay, if you read the NCERT and if you have doubts, put it down in the comment section. If you want me to explain something, I can do that as well. Okay? Lots of love. Bye-bye.